Cool. First hurdle. Oh wait, if I go down here, I can't push the button. Oh man. All right. Is there a clicker? Yes, today is my birthday. Today is my birthday. Oh, you got a present from Walmart? That's an adapter? That's awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Let me know when you're ready to record, and I will start. Hey, everyone. Good morning. Hey, thanks for coming to this talk on a Sunday morning at DerbyCon. Raise your hand if you went to the party last night. Yeah, I danced. I'm going to be real sore tomorrow because I turned 41 today, and I can't do that no more. So, all right. Anyone here go to the comedy show on Thursday night? That was also me. That's great. That's good times. Thank you for coming out. If you laughed, awesome. If you didn't, it was free. Okay. So this talk today is on how to give the gift that keeps on giving, and that's your knowledge. And really, it's inspired by what DerbyCon is. DerbyCon is about a place to share your knowledge. And I have been amazed, because I work in marketing, I'll talk about that in a second. I've been amazed that you so freely give your knowledge. You know, there's so many people that come to DerbyCon that just want to share. They've learned something, and they want to pass it on to someone else. And it's amazing to see that in the InfoSec community. I come from marketing. It's not like that in marketing. The whole reason they're there to share their knowledge is to get something back in return, because they want to benefit from the fact that they're sharing their knowledge. But I've watched so many talk after talk after talk in person to say, you know, I learned this really cool thing, and I just want to share it with somebody else. And it's just really cool to see that in this community. And so if there was a way I could replicate this in marketing, I would, but the marketing people would take over in like one day, and it would just ruin it. Because that's what we do. We ruin it. But this is the gift that keeps on giving your knowledge, and I am Jason Blanchard. I work for a small company called Black Hills Information Security. The reason why I can tell you a lot of the things that I'm going to tell you today is because we do all the things that we do that I'm going to talk about. My Twitter handle is Banjo Crashland. If you wonder where that name came from, it's just Jason Blanchard with all the letters mixed up, turned into Banjo Crashland. And that is my email address if you have any questions. And yes, hashtag I work in marketing. Sorry. I am a storyteller. I was born a storyteller. I like to start that because I just like to tell stories. Like from the very young age, I would tell stories and other people would be interested in those stories, and then people would laugh, and then I felt validation from that, so I kept doing it. So I've always been a storyteller. And if I could have another career, it would just be to write and tell stories. But that's the reason I went into marketing, because marketing is all about telling a story and telling it in a way that people want to hear it. I keep saying I work in marketing. I'm sorry. I'm a comedian. That's what I do for a hobby. Everyone should have a hobby, and mine is to get people to laugh by telling all kinds of terrible things about myself. And then people like, ha ha ha. It's good. My background's in comic books and filmmaking. So if you're wondering, like, why is he always doing like the things he does in marketing? It's like, because my background's in comic books and filmmaking. So thankfully, a nice man named Ed Scotus saw that I would be useful in the InfoSec community by having a background in comic books and filmmaking. And he said, this seems like the right kind of guy to bring on, and that's why I worked at Sands for a long time doing marketing for them. And it was my background in comic books and filmmaking that really translated well into the hacker community. And so I'm happy to be here. I did teach film, and I was a teacher. And so I taught film, and I was a teacher. Yeah. So I taught for 9 years. So I taught filmmaking, content creation, marketing, things like that. So some of the concepts that come from today is what I taught filmmakers over the course of about 9 years. And a lot of them, which is really cool to watch, you know, through social media, I've been able to watch their careers grow and how they've become directors or producers or, you know, cinematographers and stuff. And I've been able to watch the things that I taught them 9 years ago, how they applied them and use them to this day. All right, so this part's the hardest, and I use this all the time. And so I want you to raise your hand if you're shy. Cool, that's like, all right, awesome. And the fact that you came to a place on how to share your knowledge, even though you're shy, says a lot about you. Because you're like, I know I'm shy, but I'm willing to maybe learn something that will help me help others. And I think that's really neat. But the problem with being shy is that if you're shy, the things I'm going to talk about are going to scare the crap out of you. Because all of a sudden, you're going to start thinking in your head, you're like, I just don't know if this is right for me. And that's fine. That's fine. And I'm pretty sure that it may be like 4% of the room in here. And I said 4% because I work in marketing, so I just make up percentages all the time. 4% of the audience will take what I talk about today, and you're going to apply it, and years from now, you're going to have a very successful podcast, webcast, whatever kind of career, because you're going to apply what I talked about today. And maybe you're already doing this, and you just need to learn some new tactics. But the rest of you, the 96%, or 90-22%, because that's a made-up number, you're going to hear this today, and you're like, I hear it, but I'm not going to do it. And that's totally fine, but maybe I'll unveil some of the things that you didn't know about how the people who you do listen to, the podcast, the webcast, and the people who get up on stage and talk all the time, maybe I'll unveil some of the things that they do, and you'll go, actually, that doesn't seem that difficult. And the other thing I want you to know is that I know most of the people who present at conferences. You know, the nice thing about working at where I used to work is that they were gifted presenters and gifted webcast people, gifted podcast people. And after every single time I saw them talk, they would come up to me and so how was that? It was good. It was good? Yeah, it was good. It was good. Okay, cool. Because they weren't sure. Like, they came up with a talk, they wanted to give it up on stage, they presented it to all of you, and at the end of it, they weren't sure if it was good. And so if you were, like, wondering, I'm not sure if this is going to be good, sure, that's what all of us think. I have no idea if this talk right now is going to be good at all. And I'm still giving it. Here we are. And I'm also shy. I didn't raise my hand, but I am shy. Like, if you catch me and not up here, I'm a generally shy person. If you come to my booth, I'm going to talk to you because that's my job. But if I'm not, I'm just like, I'm fine. If I see you wearing a shirt I gave out, I'll come talk to you because we have a bond. We have a bond. I gave you a thing, and now I have permission to come talk to you anytime I want to. So thank you. And then the next part is even worse. So let's say you get over the shy part, and you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write something. I'm going to do a webcast. I'm going to give a presentation. The next part is even worse. It's the sound of your own voice. You have no idea how bad it is until you hear it. Like, and it's not, like, the thing is, your voice is fine, but not to you. And my voice is fine. I talk with this voice all the time, but when I listen to this recording, meta, this is going to get real meta right now. Jason, when you listen to this in a few weeks, you're going to be like, is that how I sound? Yep, that's how I sound. One of the first exercises, I went through a podcast training class, and the first exercise was to record 2 minutes of you talking and just listen to it over and over and over and over and over again. And as you listen to it the first time, you're like, do I really make that noise? There's a weird noise that I make. Can you hear it? You don't hear it in normal conversation. But you do when you listen to your own voice over and over again for 2 minutes. You're like, what is that thing I do? And so this is one of the hardest parts to get over. Your own voice. But here's what I want you to know. Every single person has a podcast, webcast. They hated the sound of their own voice too. And they still do it anyway. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can overcome this towards the end of this. But your own voice, just get over it. It's fine. You've been using it your entire life. It's okay. The other thing is the imposter syndrome. Why should you have a podcast? You have absolutely nothing to talk about. Because there's other people that have them. They've already covered it. There's no reason for mine. No one's going to listen to mine. Possible. But there's a thing that you have that no one else does, and it's you. And it's your own experiences, it's your own mind, it's your own creativity, it's your own this, it's your own that. And yes, there is someone out there that has a better podcast than you, and they may have been doing it for 5 years, and that's why it's better. Because your first podcast or webcast or live presentation is going to suck. It will suck. I'm telling you right now, it's going to suck. But I'm not telling you it's going to suck. I'm telling you that you think it's going to suck. And that got weird. So here's what I mean by that. If you gave your first presentation and it was recorded, 5 years from now, if you go back and watch it, and you watch it, you'll think to yourself, damn, that sucks. And the reason why you think it sucks is because with 5 years of experience, you'll see all the mistakes that you made in that very first one. And that's fine. So what I'm saying is, go make something that sucks, because over time it will get better. So imposter syndrome, I would say F it, but we're recording this. F it. Alright. There's a saying I always told my students, and I'm going to say it to you right now, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. And I used to say this for networking purposes. And it was, for networking, because of the shy, you raise your hand. A few of you didn't raise your hand because you were too shy to actually raise your hand. That's fine. But the shy thing is that it makes it difficult for you to network with other people because you may have an assumption in your brain that they don't want to talk to you. Like, if I go up and talk to a stranger, they're going to wonder how long this conversation is going to take and then when can they leave. But that's not true. So when you go and introduce yourself to somebody, especially here at DerbyCon, hopefully you did it over the last weekend and you do it at whatever conference you go to, you have permission to talk to every single person there. If you didn't know that, I'm giving it to you right now. You have permission to talk to every single person you meet at a conference because that's why they came to the conference. They're too shy to come talk to you, so you have to be the person that goes and talks to them. But as soon as you say, hey, how's it going? What's your name? Where are you from? They're like, oh. Jason, are you social engineering me right now? What are we doing? What's happening? Why are you talking to me? I had a person come up to me one time and like, don't I know you? And I was like, no. Because I know where this goes. And like all of a sudden it's the last four of my credit card where I grew up and all that stuff. No. So you're a little, I understand this audience is a little, what's the word? Trust issues. Trust issues. Yeah, so if anyone comes up and talks to you, you're like, what are we doing here? But if you go up and talk to someone, they're going to have the same trust issues. So it's going to take a little bit for you to overcome that, which is why I encourage you to give presentations. If there's any reason that you leave here today thinking I should give a presentation, it's that. Because when you're on stage and you're talking and you're sharing your knowledge, I have given permission to every single person in this room and every person who ever watches this recording to come up and talk to me and say, I saw that talk that you gave at DerbyCon. You, at the end of this, can come up and talk to me and ask any question you want to. I have now given you permission to come talk to me. This is the easiest way to network with people, is to get up on stage, share your knowledge, and afterwards, even if 97.2% of people disliked it, a few people did, and they'll come up and talk to you, and you just networked. So I'm going to change this a little bit. So I used to say, never deny someone the opportunity to meet you. Never deny the opportunity for someone to meet you. But for today's talk, I want to say never deny the opportunity to share the knowledge that you have with someone that doesn't have it yet. Never deny someone the opportunity to share the knowledge that you have with someone that doesn't have it yet. Because every person in this room has experiences and knowledge that someone else doesn't have. And maybe someone is smarter than you and already knows what you know, but there are people out there that don't know what you know. The reason I like working for John Strand is he has a saying that says, stop being a wizard trying to impress other wizards. Be someone that has knowledge that shares it with someone that doesn't. So if you're worried about the wizard out there that's going to say, I already knew that, don't worry about them. Worry about the people that don't know it yet. So why even do this? Why even do a podcast, webcast, presentation, blog? Why even do any of this? And you have to ask yourself that, like, why are you going to do it? And there's three main reasons why you do it. And the first one's to give back. That someone has shared knowledge to you at some point, now it's your chance to share knowledge with someone else. And that's fantastic. If that is your pure motivation, it's going to come through in everything that you create. You're going to be a generous human being that just says, I have a thing and I want to give it to you. And your knowledge is the cheapest thing that you can give to someone else. It's the least expensive. I didn't mean to say cheap, because it's not cheap. It's the least expensive thing. Make money. You can make money from this. Absolutely you can make money from this. And the reason why I know that is because I'm a marketer. I give money to people who figure this out. Because they build an audience of people I want to reach. And I'm like, I want to reach that audience. You already reached that audience. Let me give you money to reach your audience. And so you can make money by doing this. Because once you build up an audience of engaged people who want to hear what you have while you're sharing knowledge, people like me start showing up. And they're like, I hear you have like 100 followers. Could I give you $10 for that? And you're like, am I selling my soul right now? Yeah, it could be, yeah, absolutely. Or as if this was the whole reason you went into in the first place, you're like, oh, thank goodness you're here. I've been waiting for you. And the other one is to build a career. The thing about building a career is if you're the person, let's say 1,000 people are listening to on a topic, and you wanted to switch jobs, and you wanted to mention that or put that in whatever it is that you create, do you think you might have job opportunities? Absolutely. If people are listening to you and you're the subject matter expert on a topic, and you want to start consulting on that topic, people are going to hire you for that specific thing. Let's say you lose your job in a layoff, but you have 10,000 people that listen to your podcast. How long do you think you'll be out of work? Not long at all. Because you just go on your podcast like, hey, due to unforeseen economic circumstances, I've been let go from my employer. Anyone out there want to hire someone that has these skills? And you just list them. You just created a commercial for yourself, and all of a sudden emails start coming in about you working for somebody else. And if you're listening to the recording right now, do this. Do it. Okay. Build your career. So these are the 3 reasons. But I need you to know why you're doing any of this in the first place before you start making it. Because if it is to give back, that's going to be the perspective that you come from with all this. If it is to make money, it's going to change the way that you do any of the things I'm going to talk about. And if it's to build your career, also. But here's the cool thing. By giving back, you can make money and build your career. You can do all 3. By just sharing your knowledge with people, people will show up and want to pay you. And let's say they want to give you money, but they want to change your show. You don't have to take their money. You can say, I'm going to do the show that I want to do. I'm going to write the thing I want to write. I'm going to do whatever I want. And if you want to give me money, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm okay with that. All right, so here's the types of stuff I'm going to talk about. We're going to go more in depth with these. So I just wanted to give you context, like why to do it, get over the sound of your own voice, imposter syndrome, all those things. But here's the stuff we're going to talk about. Webcast and streaming. It used to just be webcast until I saw someone streaming them doing a tutorial on web app pen testing. And they had 4,500 people watching it. I was like, damn, this is the thing. Going on Twitch and just having a Twitch account and just saying, for the next 2 hours, I'm going to hack a thing. A real thing in scope with rules of engagement, yada, yada, yada. So here's a bank I'm about to hack. No. 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 I had a producer wanted to do a show on hacking. So a producer reached out to the company I work for, and she wanted to do a show on hacking. And she's like, and we want to show real hacking. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, hacking into like a bank and a utility company. And I was like, no. No. So make sure whatever you're hacking into, you have permission. Make sure whatever you're hacking into, you have permission. All right, good. So when you're doing streamings and webcasts, how-to videos. This is the easiest thing you could do. Easiest thing. It's getting screen capture technology, and you say, have you ever wondered how to do an exploit, metasploit? I'm going to show you in the next 3 minutes. And that's it. Because someone is doing a search for, how do I do an exploit, metasploit? Because they've never done it before. They just heard about Metasploit, and they don't know what they're doing. And if you're like, well, there's all these tutorials out there. That's right. There are. But there's not one that's 3 minutes long that's in your voice with your history and your story that's going to go along with it. Blogs. It's a real simple thing. It's almost a requirement where I work now is to write a blog. And it's a way of sharing your knowledge. If there's a thing that you just did at work that you thought was really cool, screen capture it, write out topics on it. And if you're wondering, like, well, how do I get started on this? I gave a talk at DerbyCon 2 years ago on how to do how-tos or how to give a presentation. And it just kind of goes through all the different steps that you would need, like a hook, a beginning, a middle, a climax, and an end, and all the different things in that. So if you want to go and watch that on YouTube, you can. It's, what is it talk? What did I call that? Presentations or presentations for sake of presentations. I think that's what it was called. And the reason why I called it that is because if anyone did a search for DerbyCon presentations, guess who showed up highest in the Google search results? Just put the word presentation in there a bunch of times. Okay. Live presentations, what I'm currently doing right now. And if the thought of getting up in front of an audience scares you, do it anyway. You have no idea what the adrenaline rush is like up here. I just stumbled over all my words because I was talking about adrenaline rushes. But yeah, this is exciting. After this, I'm going to go and sit down. If I still smoked, I'd smoke a cigarette. It'd be great. But giving live presentations is exciting. It's fun. It's great. I highly recommend it. And the last thing is podcast, because that way no one sees what you look like. It's great. Someone once told me I had a voice for radio or something, or a face for radio. That's what it was, a face for radio. Jerks. Content chunking. So before I go any further, there's this really cool technique called content chunking in marketing. And the concept is you take a great big piece of content, and then you break it up into smaller pieces of content. So that way you don't have to keep making content. So you take a presentation that you're giving, a live presentation like this one right here, and then 6 weeks from now, I give it as a webcast. So I give it as a webcast. And so I used to talk to people like, hey, can you give your live presentation as a webcast? And they're like, why would I? They've already heard it. I'm like, who are you talking about? The people in the room, they've already heard it. Yeah, there's like 100,000 other people out there that weren't in the room. And so it's fine to give the same thing twice. It's fine to give the same presentation 8 times at different conferences because it's a different audience. And if it gets recorded 8 different times, I'm pretty sure there was one that was better than all of them, so only talk about that one. I gave a presentation at B-Sides Augusta that was amazing. And then I gave the same one at DerbyCon. Okay. If I want to point anyone to it, it's the one at B-Sides Augusta. And so it's fine for you to give it multiple times and then point people to the one that you thought was best. Totally fine with that. And the other thing is you can take that live presentation, turn it into a webcast. At the end of the live presentation, you had people that gave you that asked questions. Well, now incorporate those questions into the webcast version. Or when people ask questions during the webcast version, hey, that's great. Those now become my 5 topics for blogs. So you take the live presentation, you give it as a webcast, people start asking questions, you take those questions, you turn them into blog topics, and now you've taken one thing and turned it into a bunch of different things. And then you reach out to other podcasters who are already doing InfoSec, and you say, hey, I gave a talk at DerbyCon on this topic. Would it be possible for me to go on your podcast and talk about it? And so now you're talking about it on someone else's podcast, and it's still the same content, and it's being used over and over and over and over and over and over again. Does that make sense? And if you had a couple good slides, like this one or another one that I'm going to show, you can take this and screenshot it, put it out on Twitter or LinkedIn, and then you can give like a bullet point of what you were talking about during that time with a link to the overall presentation. So if you like the word content chunking and I give a little specifics about it, we'll follow the link to watch the entire thing here at DerbyCon. And this whole thing's getting real meta right now because if you're watching the recording, chances are you're watching the recording because you clicked on the link for my LinkedIn profile because I put a post up there and now you're watching it. Hey, we're friends now. Okay. Cool. The other thing is evergreen topics. So there are things in information security that if you were to talk about it or blog about it today, chances are it gets fixed tomorrow. Like there's a real possibility that if you found an exploit in Windows Defender, someone at Windows would be like, oh, damn. Oh, we should fix that. And then it's no longer useful. And that's a possibility, and that's fine. You can do those. But every once in a while, do something that's evergreen. A technique, a method, a thing that you do that you found that works for you, that you can give. And the reason why is because if you talk about it today, is it still useful a year from now? Sure. So when people are coming to us from Google search results and from you talking about on Twitter, and they come to it, and it's still useful, it's still good for you. And so think about what kind of topic can I come up with that's evergreen, that can be useful to an audience for a very long time, or if you need to go back a couple years later and update. But think about evergreen topics. Is there something that I can come up with that can be useful to people for a long period of time? And then this one, another concept, content library. So if you do a podcast or a webcast or a blog or something, put it in a spreadsheet. Like start creating a spreadsheet of all your content. a list of where it goes and the links to it. And this is something that I've done for years, is that, you write a blog post on today. Well, 6 months from now, you can still use it, so you can go back to the spreadsheet and and post it. And it makes it real simple for you to just automate, not like automate in a bad way, but automate the way that you're getting knowledge out to an audience. And the reason why is because if you have 400 Twitter followers now, but a year from now you have 1,400 Twitter followers, is there a chance that the people who a year from now never saw the thing you posted today? Yeah, there's a chance that the thing you post today, no one's going to see a year from now unless you post it again. And so it's a way for you to take the things that you're creating today and use it over and over and over and over again to get it out for an audience. And those of you in here that are consultants or own your own businesses, this is the way that you can do some marketing for your own company, so that way you can get people learning about you and the services that you provide in a non-salesy vendor way, so that they want to hire you for what you do. All right, one last one before we go deep into some of the other things is interviews. These are the Trojan horse for you. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a podcast about Windows Directory. And it's just a podcast about Windows Directory. And what you can do is you can reach out to the people who actually make Windows Directory a thing. And you can say, hey, I have a podcast. We have about 500 listeners. They tune in every single week. Would you be willing to come on to my show and talk about the nature of how you architect the thing that you created? And inherently, they'd be like, are you social engineering me right now? Like, why do you want me to come on your show? And if you do get a chance for them to come on your show and talk about Windows Directory, and also, once again, I work in marketing. If this doesn't make any sense to you, I'm sorry. It's just because I don't know. But if you have people come onto your show to talk about the thing, who did they just meet? You. You're meeting the people that work at the companies that do the thing that you think is cool. And you're meeting them. You're interviewing them. And so, in my line of work, if I wanted to interview somebody that was incredibly famous for doing the thing that they did, by talking to them, I've just introduced myself to them. It's a form of networking. So I want you to think about the 10 people you want to interview that work in the industry that you want. And it may not be InfoSec related. If you like action figures and you want to do a podcast on action figures because that's your hobby and that's the thing that you love, then start interviewing the people who make action figures. If you're a show about other YouTubers, you could make a show about other YouTubers. And then you can interview those YouTubers to come on your show, and then those YouTubers talk about the fact that they were on your show, and then you get more audience members. You use interviews to introduce yourself to people you want to talk to. And this is the Trojan horse for introducing yourself and networking. And if you're like, the gears are starting to turn right now, like, oh, I could interview people who I want to hire me. If you wanted to work at a specific company, interview the people from that company. Interview the hiring manager. Dun, 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 dun. And as you're talking, you're like, hey, you got any jobs available? That came out weird. Sorry. Oh, God. Or you do a great interview and then you follow up 2 weeks later and you say, hey, the podcast is available online right now. You can tune into it. If you want to share the link, here's the link. Also, any jobs available right now? And so this is an opportunity for you to meet people and introduce yourself to others. And I have OSINTs up here because of the nature of what you do, you're really good at finding the people to interview. I hired some interns and I taught them OSINT. I was like, here's how you track down and you stalk people. And I want you to stalk these 27 people, and I want you to get their email addresses and their phone numbers and their all this stuff, and then we're going to reach out to them. And you have these particular set of skills that you have, that you can do this easier than most people can in other industries. You know how to find somebody. So think about that when it comes to this. All right, so if you're given a webcast, what is that? It's a GoToWebinar session that you set up, that you promote. Maybe 30 people show up to. Fantastic. But those 30 people that show up to it have now given you their name and email address to show up for your webinar. What I want you to do is start building an email list from that. And so the next webcast that you do, 39 people show up. And now you have 9 new people. You add them to your email list. But the reason why I want you to do webcasts and what this is, it's essentially this, but online. We give webcasts at Black Hills Information Security, and currently 775 people show up on average. 775 people. That's more people that could fit in this room right now. And so it's like every single time we give a webcast, it's like giving a keynote address to somebody. And what's cool is that at the beginning, like before the webcast starts, we go, where is everyone from? And it starts coming in. Like, people are from Nova Scotia. Is Nova Scotia a real place? From Nova Scotia. Norway. We have people from South Africa. We have people from Singapore and Japan. We have people from Arkansas. Like, all over. I never said I was Canadian. I would never say that, sir. Wow. Whew. I found out my wife was part Canadian after we got married, and it led to marital issues. Yes. Oh, God. Honey, yes, you're a little bit Canadian. You just found out right here, right now. Okay. If anyone's watching from Canada, thanks for coming and finding out what all this is about. So live versus recorded. So here's the difference between a live webcast and a recorded webcast. The thing is, a live webcast, currently like my live presentation right now, is you're all currently trying your best to pay attention. The fact that I'm speaking live right now is the reason that you're not checking your phone. The reason I'm speaking live right now, you're not on Twitter. Maybe you're on Twitter, I don't know. About 2 or 3 people got up and left while I was giving this presentation. And internally, I was like, oh, where are you going? Oh. But the rest of you are trying your best to stay, even if it wasn't something you were interested in. And that's what happens during a live webcast. People show up and they're like, well, I'm here and he's talking. Or she's talking. I might as well stay the whole damn time. What I've learned is the retention rates for a live webcast is 90%. The retention rate for a live webcast is 90%. There are people that drop off at the 30-minute mark because they had a meeting or something else to go to, and that happens. But you also pick up people at the 30-minute mark. They couldn't come, and then they decide to show up. And so the difference between doing a live is people are willing to listen because it's live. There's like a unspoken human transaction taking place. Like, well, I'll be here too. A recorded webcast has a retention rate of 10%. Because it's recorded. And if in the first 2 or 3 minutes someone's not like, this isn't for me, they leave. They totally leave. And so I highly recommend you give live webcasting. And turn your webcam on. Turn it on. People stay longer if your webcam's on. Because they feel they're like, oh, you're a real person. All right, I'll stay. So turn your webcam on. And the other reason to turn your webcam on is because people get to see your face. And so if they see you at a conference, they're like, oh, you're the webcast person. Yeah, it's creepy, but yeah. Yeah. Let's do some networking. Okay. How-to videos. This is as easy as, if you have a Mac, you can go into QuickTime and say record screen. And just record screen. And all you're doing is, for the next 3 to 9 minutes, you're going to record yourself teaching people how you do a thing. If it's Burp Suite, you're just going to do Burp Suite. And if you're going to talk for 4 hours, still break it into 3 to 9 minute segments. Because people like searching for how-to videos. They go, how to do this in Burp. And if they find your video on YouTube, they're going to watch it. The how-to videos that are like 3 minutes long have like 400,000 views. And the webcasts that we do that are 60 minutes long have 2,000 views. Do you know why? Because all of you, like everyone else, looks at the runtime of a video and goes, no, that's too much of a commitment. I got things to do. Even at 3 minutes, you're like, you better teach me something in 3 minutes. And so as you're thinking about making something for an audience, like just make a 3-minute video. And how easy is that? You bring up QuickTime, you bring up the program you use already, and you just show something. And if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, but this is really simple. Exactly. Because I see some college students in the audience right now that are like, could you please make that 3-minute video? Because I don't know how to do the thing that you know how to do. I meet college students all the time, and they're like, so how do I get started in this industry? Well, go watch a video that I made a few years ago called How to Social Engineer Your Way into Your Dream Job. Do that. And then go on YouTube and teach yourself how to do these things. What would be really nice, though, is if you made whatever it is that you're using available in the description. If you have a PCAP file that you're looking at, make it a downloadable that people can download and use. If you're using an open source program, have a link to that open source program. If someone else created an open source program, but you know how to use it better than they do because they just made it and they haven't really touched it since, but it's the thing that you use, then become the subject matter expert for that open source tool. And if anyone ever downloads that tool and they don't know how to use it, they're going to find your 47 3-minute videos on how to use that tool. Blogs. If you're writing a blog, and the thing about writing a blog is bloggers, if you want to know how to write a blog, every blogger writes a blog on how to write blogs. This is not a hard thing to learn because everyone's like, well, my first blog is going to be how to write a blog. So go find those. But what I want you to look at is search engine optimization. So if you have Google Analytics on your blog, start looking at what people are searching for. Let's say you have 47 different blogs that you've written over time, but 10 of them are the most popular ones. And you're like, why is that popular? So at Black Hills, I have a hard time saying this, LLMNR. If you do a search for LLMNR, Black Hills comes up as the second thing to read. You just type in LLMNR, and there's a blog about it. It is the most trafficked blog on our entire website every single month because of Google search results. Do you know what we should do a webcast about? LLMNR. Because that's what people are looking for. And so as you write these over time and that you have a content library that's building, and you start looking at the search results, you will start seeing what people are looking for, and then you'll start making things for what people are looking for. And I do recommend that you put the words how to in your blog post, because that's what people look for. They inherently go, how to do a thing. Our blog posts that start with how to are the most trafficked blogs on our site. The ones that have catchy titles that were catchy, people don't really look for because it's a catchy title. And you're making this for an audience. You're not making it for yourself, you're making it for an audience. So it's how to do this. When you're coming up with podcasts, I could also tell you how to do a podcast, but there's also hundreds of thousands of podcasts on how to make a podcast. So go watch and listen to those. I said watch. I mean, some people might record a video of the Okay. The thing about podcasts is consistency. So when you go on Spotify, when you go on iTunes, when you go on Google Podcasts, if you were to do a search for something on those places and they found your podcast, if the last time you did one was 18 months ago, do you think anyone's going to listen to it? Maybe. But what people look for is consistency. They look for, if I'm going to listen to this one thing, is there going to be another one next week? Is there going to be one after that? Is there going to be one after that? And even if it was recorded a week and a half ago, they may think, well, I'll go listen to that because it's new, it's current. And if I don't get a chance to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it right now. Do not put anything on the internet until you've made at least 20 of them. Don't put a how-to video online. Don't put a podcast online. Don't put a blog online. Don't put anything online until you've made 20 of them. And the reason why is because you're going to be real excited after you leave this talk, or if you just watched it on the internet. You're going to be real excited, like, oh, I want to go share something I've made. I want to do a podcast. I want to do a blog. I want to do a thing. Don't put anything on the internet till you've done 20, because that enthusiasm will fade real quick. And you'll write one. You'll put your blog online. You'll get the URL. You'll open the Twitter account. You'll create this. You'll do all those things. And then you make 2 of them because you didn't realize what time commitment it was going to be. Or you didn't think they were good. You thought they sucked. And so you didn't make any more. So what I'm encouraging you to do is make 20 of them and then start one at a time releasing them. And that also helps you too if you want to go on vacation. You want to go on vacation and still be consistent? If you want to take a month off and still be consistent, you can do that. And then one other thing is, instead of recording one podcast a week, or one webcast a week, or one how-to video a week, record 6 in one day. Because you have the time. Take one day off from work, or take one day of PTO, one day of this, one day of that, one Saturday, and record 6 in a row. You're already set up with the recording. You're already in the mental space to do so. So just keep recording them one after another, after another, after another, and then release them one at a time. Does that make sense? Live presentations. Tell a story. I mean, you could be as technical as possible, and the reason why I gave a presentation on giving presentations a few years ago is because you all have something important to say, and I mean that. You have something important to say for the safety of the entire world and the internet and all this stuff. You have something important to say. I come from marketing. We have nothing important to say. We do not. But we can say it really well. That's what we're great at. We're great at saying nothing really great. And your industry is not as great as saying something that's important. And so I highly recommend that you maybe go watch my talk from a few years ago, or go watch other presenters and start looking at the thing that they do. And it is tell a story. They tell stories with a hook, a beginning, a middle, a climax, and an end. And so structure your presentation. What is my hook? What is my beginning? What is my middle? What is the climax? What is the thing I want people to remember the most? And what is my ending? And if you can start telling a story, then people will listen to your presentations. And if you don't know where to get started, take a blank sheet of paper and write the word hook, beginning, middle, climax, and end on that sheet of paper, and then fill in the gaps. Whenever I do a CFP, I write a 5-sentence CFP. I write a 5-sentence abstract. I write a 5-sentence email. I write a 5-sentence thing. A hook, a beginning, a middle, a climax, and an end. Because that is how human beings like to hear stories. And so just structure it in that way. Like I said in CFP submissions, so now you I want to give a presentation, but now you got to get past the CFP people. The best way to get past the CFP people is to write it in hook, beginning, middle, climax, and end. Here's what I'm going to tell the audience. This is how I'm going to start. This is what I'm going to say next. This is what the main takeaway is of my entire presentation. And this is how I'm going to end it. Here's the takeaways that I want people to know. I have only been rejected from marketing conferences. Oh, God. I have never been rejected from an InfoSec conference. Because I just have this way of saying it succinctly, I guess. Or I'm saying something that not other people are saying. So what I'm saying to you is, write your CFP in a hook, beginning, middle, climax, and end, and keep it simple. And then one last thing. You do not need to figure out what your talk is going to be about and then submit. You can submit a talk and then figure it all out before you give the presentation, like all the rest of us do. If you're ever like, wow, this research is really amazing that the person's currently doing on stage, they figured it out like 4 days ago. Like that's when it all came together. Like they were really working on it, but that's like the time got closer, like, oh, I really need to do this. So I'm saying to you too, if you have an idea for research, if you have an idea for a talk, then submit it and then figure it out before you have to give it. Cool. All right, good. I am running out of time. What I was going to say is we're going to create something today. We're going to create our own piece of content. And so I'm going to take the action figure podcast. So let's say you're going to do an action figure podcast. And so that's the content you're going to create. And the reason why is because you want to give back to the community. You love action figures. And I know that some people in the audience right now are like, I don't like action figures. That's right. Most of you don't. But the thing is, you don't have to create content for the entire internet to enjoy. You only need to create content for the people who are going to like the content that you create. Does that make sense? And so many of you right now are like, well, I want to do a thing, but not many people are going to like it. That's fine. You only need the people who are going to like it to like it. Does that make sense? And I know I keep saying, does that make sense? Because I need head nods for validation of my content. Okay. All right. So production. Let's say you were going to do a thing about action figures and you were going to unbox action figures. And that's the show you were going to do. And so you have a show about unboxing action figures, but you're going to do it live because that's more exciting. So you're going to do it live, so now you have to buy a camera. Buy the cheapest, crappiest camera you can buy because you're only going to make one of these and then you're going to lose enthusiasm. If you make it past 5, get a better camera. Okay? And so as you're recording this thing live, you unboxing your favorite toy, and like the excitement's on your face. You're like, oh my God, look, and it comes with this accessory and this accessory. Look at the points of articulation. This is incredible. Background, I worked for DC Comics for a little while in their action figure division. I like action figures. Okay. All right. And so you record it, or you have it live, and now people are tuning in for your live stream of you opening this thing, and they're commenting like, look at all the, they are saying, look at all the points of articulation. Look at all, oh my God, look at the, like, and so it becomes a conversation, it becomes a community based around the thing that you do. And that's really cool. And so now you're recording it, you screen capture, whatever it is, and over time you're like, you know what I should build? My own studio. With my own action figures up on the wall behind me of all the ones I've opened in the past, and I can refer back to past episodes that people can tune in for. And you start having the thing that you become known for. And the one thing, the tip from this is, if you have a bad thing that you do, like a bad show, don't re-record it. Put it on the internet. The reason why is because I heard an author a few years ago said, there's nothing better than putting out bad stuff on the internet. It will force you to get better really quickly. Post-production. This is your intro, your outro. You can pay someone to make this for you. You can go on Fiverr or one of those other places and say, hey, can you make a video intro for my action figure website or my action figure live stream? Editing out the ahs, the ums, and the so's. I recommend if you don't do this, go find a Toastmasters group in your local community. If you don't know what Toastmasters is, it's a place for you to get better at speaking. And so you go to Toastmasters and you start learning that to take the ahs and the ums and the so's out, and you start being a better presenter. I do recommend you do that. And then one last tip for post-production is outsource it. If you hate the sound of your own voice, pay someone to edit it for you. It's a great way to take you out of the equation, so you pay someone $50 to edit an episode for you, especially a college student who needs the experience of learning how to do this. And then distribution. So like I said earlier, wait until you have 20 finished things before you put it out for an audience, unless it's a live stream, and then just wing it. If you're doing a live stream, just wing it. On iTunes, you want people to review it. So this is the one time you send an email out to everyone that you know and say, could you please go review my podcast? Please, Mom, could you do this one thing for me? Here's the things I want you to say. God. On YouTube, it's important to tag things. If you're doing a talk on, if you're doing a webcast on information security, tag DerbyCon. Tag Iron Geek. Yes, I do that all the time. I tag you, Iron Geek, all the time. And I tag DerbyCon because if someone's looking for a DerbyCon presentation, you're going to show up on the side of other presentations you might want to see. And so tagging things related to your industry, and tag the big ones. I tag DEFCON all the time. All right. And then your website, WordPress. I have like 1 minute, don't I? This went fast. Your email list, the most of 3 minutes? That's what your email list. Knee-jerk reaction right there. Your email list. This becomes the most important tool for you. Over time, as you make something, you want to be able to email it out to your audience and say, I have a new thing. If you haven't seen it yet, you should check it out. People who give you their email really care. Because, I mean, this weekend you were here at this event, and everyone was like, hey, can I have your email? And you're like, no. No, you can't. That's mine. So if you have people who are giving you their email, they really care about the thing that you're making. And then this other one, join forces. If there's someone out there that's making something like they have an action figure podcast too, join forces with them. Because you'll get a part of their audience will get a part of yours. It's fantastic. this is how YouTubers did it from like 2007 to 2012. They were doing joint forces. The most important thing I want you to take away from this is it doesn't matter if you have 100,000 followers if only 10 people care. If you have 10 people and all of them care, that's the most important part. It's about engagement from the people who actually show up. So it's not about big numbers, it's about engagement. And with my, in conclusion, this went so fast. In conclusion, the main takeaway from today, if you only heard one thing, it's please take the spirit of DerbyCon with you. Take the spirit of this community with you. And please never deny someone the opportunity to learn the thing that's currently in your brain, the knowledge